Hi, my name is Nikki, and today I'm going to talk to you about understanding students with ADHD. I'm going to talk to you about ADHD, what it is, how I can assist, how I can understand, what are some supports, what are some interventions with behaviors and academically, how can I support parents, and what about medication? So now we're going to talk about what is ADHD. And ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It's a serious and chronic inattentiveness and hyperactivity and or impulsivity. Um, and it's kind of ex- self-explanatory just in the name, the attention deficit. So without having attention, hyperactivity, and being hyper, and disorder. Um, which hyperactivity doesn't always look the way that you stereotypically think about. Um, there's significant different attention problems, and there's three different types. One is ADHD predominantly inattentive type, and that is the daydreamer, the one that's not paying attention, the one that doesn't distract the kids in class. It might be distracting because they're looking for something they lost, but not because they're being attention seeking. Um, they also have problems with skipping parts of assignments or reading and such as that. And they may also not hear the directions or what's going on because they may be having their attention on something else. Um, and the predominantly hyperactive ADHD impulsive type is the ones that move more than their peers. They are wiggling in their seats, they're standing up, sitting down, um, thumping their feet or their hands on tables, or just constantly moving and distracting to themselves or others. They don't, um, they tend to be impulsive and act without thinking. And they blurt out answers. And then the last type is a combination of both. And this is the most difficult type because it's a little bit of both, not predominantly one or the other. Um, ADHD is not really about inattention, rather, it's an ability to regulate the attention. It's also to regulate their impulsivity and their hyperactivity. They have problems regulating their executive functions, which include working memory, self directed speech, control of motions and motivation, and reconstitution. Um, it also, ADHD interferes with social and academic functions. It varies by age and can continue through adulthood with some people. Interventions for students with ADHD. There's behavior interventions, parent education, medication, academic interventions, and environmental support. And I'm going to talk about each one of these points next. Some behavior interventions is to keep structure in your day, as like in a routine or how you do things, how you might read around in a group and ask questions like they know that you're going to ask each person in the circle in order or something like that. There's different kinds of rewards for behavior. They're more of instant gratification that they need, and not like long term. By the end of the day you were good or you were bad. They need verbal praise as a reward. You could possibly use stickers or tokens so they know that they are on the right track with their behaviors at that moment at certain times throughout the day. Strategic placement of desks, setting them somewhere where they won't be distracted. Usually the front of the room works, but like maybe not next to the window or next to their best friend or something like that. Limit distractions. like the decorations in your room, where you place their friends at, um, and different things like that. And then clear and simple expectations. If you have a rule, one rule that is like a whole sentence or a couple sentences instead of keep your hands to yourself. Something simple and clear for the expectation, not a big, long, drawn out thing that would take them a long time to really think about or read, or something they could glance up at if it was short and simple of things that they need to be watching for behavior. Parent education, you can build relationships between home and school. That relationship is very important. It's important so that way both at home and at school they can help the child as much as possible, and everybody could be on the same page to assist the student. And so that way some expectations can be on the same page at home and at school. Having that relationship at home will help the lines of communication to be open between the parent and the school. Um, if the parent feels like they are not being judged, but they're actually being helped and that somebody cares, and wants to be there to be supportive of them, is the best kind of way to build a relationship with a parent. Including parents in planning sessions for either behavior management or classroom setup, or if they have an IEP, to be in on that to give their 2 cents of things that they think that might work or not. Um, Learning the child's rights and responsibilities is very important for the parents, especially when they get older into middle school and high school. The responsibilities of and rights going into college and into adulthood and into the real world, and what's expected of them as they're graduating or as they're going through junior high. Share resources outside of school that educate and support families with ADHD. There might be a local organization um, close to you, and even if there's not, there's plenty of online resources and different types of situations um, that of like websites that you can have to help. Medication is the first for ADHD was developed in the 1940s. It's the most common intervention with significant benefit, um, with especially with other kind of interventions, not just medication. It helps the most. It's the parent's decision that they make with their physician. It's not a teacher's job to tell parents that your child needs medication. That's their choice. Um, they know their child, and it's not the teacher's place to be telling them what to do with that. Works best, like I said, with other interventions. 70% of students with ADHD takes medications. Common kinds of medications are stimulants, antidepressants, and hypertensive sensitives. Disadvantages for medication are inconsistency if the child is not taking their medicine on a consistent basis at home and at school. If they're sharing their medication with peers, that would be a bad situation and putting other students in danger. Proper dosage, that can hurt a child if they don't have the proper dosage um, as their body grows and such. Things change, and the side effects can also be a disadvantage. And keeping in touch with parents are very important, especially if you're concerned with something with medication. That's kind of goes in with the relationship with the parents, so they can be on the same page and know exactly what's going on because you're with their kids a lot of the day. Some academic interventions would be to highlight necessary information to make sure that you're making it quite clear that the information that they need to know and make it obvious. break their reading material up into smaller parts, because it may be harder for them to read all one big chunk at one time. Um, Extend working time, whether it's reading or math or whatever they're working on. A quiet place if they need. Text to speech and speech to text. They can listen to text being read, which might help with the reading materials and smaller parts. And then text to speech if they're trying to write something, but they have a hard time keeping attention with it. It might help them get their ideas down on the computer to write or type it down for them. And then verbal practice in large groups of students, so that way they can get it out of their head and out loud. So maybe they might understand it better if they're saying it out loud. Environmental supports could be arrangement of seatings in classroom. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Limit distraction, we also talked about earlier. Desk corrals, which are, we call them offices at our school, but it's just a cardboard paper or like um, things, three-sided objects, so that way they can kind of be in their own area and keeps focused, so it keeps other distractions out of their sight. Um, Clear and simple expectations, like I said before, routine with fidelity. And if there is a change in routine, like if there is a assembly or something like that, to have the inform them of that change and maybe quietly, like ahead of time, like at the beginning of the day or the week, and then maybe shortly, like 5 minutes before the change happens that's different from their schedule, maybe um, tell them quietly that that change is about to happen. Families of children with ADHD, one important thing is not to blame the parents for whatever the kids' actions are. They get to choose their actions. It's our place as educators and as parents to help guide them, but we can't make them do something or not do something. It has to be their choice. And don't condone at the same time inappropriate student behavior when you're talking to the parents about something going on at school. Um, and then to have open communication with them is the best thing. So that way it's best help support that student. I hope you found this informative. Have a good day. Bye.